but we brought in another man, friend of the show. We love this guy. I swear we're not trying to pick on him today after Boston's collapse against the Panthers in Game 7 last night. It's Steven Psihogios of North Star Bet. Stevie, do you want me to just give you the floor right now to vent out all your frustration?
Well, I gotta ask: is this a setup or a
No,
premeditated attack, or what's
no,
going
I
on here? I
promise
was
I would never,
ambushed.
I would never do that to you. I swear. But let's start with that game. I mean, Boston, greatest regular season team in history, 65 wins, 3-1 in the series. And they give it up to a Panthers team who just were all heart and they just really wanted it more, Stevie.
Like, I wish I could tell you that the Bruins got, the raw end of the deal on officiating, or, they were clearly the better team, but that would just be lies, because the Panthers outplayed the Boston Bruins, especially you look from Game 5 onward. They were the better team. They forecheck like crazy. Those guys are like dogs on raw meat on the puck in the offensive zone, and that's what led to the game-winning goal. You had Boston's defense really. No one decided to pick up that dump in, and the Panthers were able to get it, and they scoop it, and they win the series. And look, this is a Florida team that dealt with a lot of injuries in the regular season, and now that they're healthy, they're dangerous. But, there's no other word to describe Boston's season to use other than disappointment. It was just a complete disappointment. You had all that hype from the regular season just to throw it away in 7 games.
So Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm sure you saw his post game after the Bucks were eliminated from the playoffs by the Miami Heat, very similar to what happened to the Boston Bruins. And Giannis said, "Listen, there's no failure in sports; it's just steps to success." If you were to go into that dressing room after that game and ask Patrice Bergeron that same question, was this season a failure? He would say what?
Well, you know what? Like, I respect what a fellow Greek, Giannis Antetokounmpo's got to say, but I think Patrice Bergeron and myself, if I'm speaking for Patrice here, I'm saying this is a failure. Like, you cannot go out and win 65 games in the regular season and lose in 7. I don't care if the Panthers are healthy. I don't care whatever the circumstances are. You were the best team in the regular season, and you just got thoroughly outplayed in a 7-game series. So, actually, I shouldn't say thoroughly. They got outplayed. It wasn't, it still went 7 games, but you got outplayed by the second wildcard team, and that's something that nobody was expecting, nor should it have happened.
Stevie, let's take a look at the world we live in, that the Toronto Maple Leafs actually didn't choke in the playoffs and the Boston Bruins did. Now the Leafs will play Matthew Tkachuk and the Florida Panthers. What type of challenge does Matthew Tkachuk bring to the Leafs, and especially getting under the skin of the Leafs' best players? I'm looking at Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews.
Well, emotional, physical, verbal, you name it. Those are all the challenges Matthew Tkachuk is going to cost the Toronto Maple Leafs, because he is just the king of stirring the pot. He did such a good job of getting under Linus Ullmark's skin in that series. And I think that's one of the turning points of that series. You remember at the end of Game 4, Ullmark was ready to throw down with Matthew Tkachuk. He was ready to throw haymakers at the guy. So I think Matthew Tkachuk has just got this unbelievable talent to get under opposing team skins, but he can back it up. Like, I'm not even mad at this Florida team. I'm impressed. As a Bruins fan, what was Boston known for? Being the big bad Bruins. They got outdone by the Cats. They were outdone that entire series in the physicality department by Florida. They are just a physical bunch, and it starts with Matthew Tkachuk, and I think that's a big difference from this year's Florida's team to last year's. They have that edge. They have more of an identity, this Florida team, other than just pulling comebacks out of the third period, out of magic every game. They have an identity, and that's just being a hard team to play against, and it starts with Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating tilt between these two teams. The Leafs are the slight favorites at this point entering the series. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's the case, or is this pretty much a pick 'em at this point?
I think the Leafs should be the favorites. I've got this one going 7. It's a close series. I think there's maybe a little too much juice to pay right now. I'm betting the Maple Leafs straight up. I actually like banking a game and a half with Florida over at North Star Bets. You can do that minus 155. I actually think that's the better way to go about it, because I just think this series has 7 games written all over it. If you look at the regular season record, sure, Florida lost 3 of the 4 games, but 3 of those 4 games went to overtime. Like, these are closely, evenly matched teams. You look even further back of their last 6 meetings, dating back to last year. 5 of the last 6 have gone to overtime. These are two teams that are much closer than the standings would indicate, and partly because Florida was so injured all season long. And now that they're healthy, this is a different Panthers team we're talking about.
Stevie, where you at with the Panthers goaltending? Obviously, Alex Lyon started the series. He's not the guy now. It went over to Sergei Bobrovsky, two-time Vezina guy, really inconsistent throughout his career, but put together a string of pretty good performances, and now it's his net. In terms of what Paul Maurice is going to do with his goaltending, do you think there's a short lease on Bobrovsky heading into the series?
I think it's his crease, honestly. I think neither goalie is impenetrable on Florida. You look, Alex Lyon, the Bruins got to him, and you really can't say Bobrovsky was dominant against the Bruins. He gave up 5 goals in that game 6. His thing, he just didn't give up the 6th goal. And that's all the
Right.
Panthers are going to ask of Bobrovsky. Don't whatever we're able to get, just keep him to 1 under. If we score 6, because that offense can score 5-6 goals. They're really talented. Just give up 4 that night. They're not asking him to steal a game or steal the series. They're just asking him to, give up 3. If Paul Maurice could sign on a dotted line right now a contract that said Sergei Bobrovsky is going to give up 3 goals every game this series, he would sign it right now.
Stevie, look at the matchups between these two teams. I'm really intrigued at Alexander Barkov. Now, he didn't blow the stat sheet away in the round 1, but he still had an impact. He's probably one of the best 200-foot players in the game of hockey. How do you see him matching up against the Leafs top line and Austin Matthews? I think that's going to be the matchup that determines this series.
I think he needs to step it up a little bit. I wasn't overly impressed by Barkov in that first round series. Even defensively, there were some times, even in that game 6, Boston scores that shorthanded goal. Jake DeBrusk walks in all alone. And why is that? You look at where Barkov was. He went in on the pinch on the back check when there was already a defender on, especially when you're up a man. It's a 5-on-4. You don't need to have 2 guys on 1 when the puck's behind your own net. So I think even defensively, there's room for Barkov to improve. And I think he will. Like you said, this is a guy who's been a perennial Selke contender, and the offense will probably tick up a little bit as well. The Bruins, defensively, they were as tough of a matchup as there was when you're trying to score. They gave up the fewest goals in the regular season per game. So seeing him struggle a little bit maybe isn't too surprising, but it was underwhelming considering how the rest of his team was able to fare against Boston.
The Leafs in the last match, last game, obviously made some changes, 11-7. Lafferty was out, Hull was out, in comes Liljegren, who actually played pretty well, I thought. Hull obviously had a terrible series. Do you think Liljegren will keep his position in that Toronto 6 or 7 if they go with a 7 again?
I think so. I think what's going to happen is what happened in the Bruins series is that Florida's going to force you into a run and gun game. And I think Liljegren gives you a little bit more as someone who can move the puck out of the zone. I wouldn't even be surprised if Gustafsson got some time on the back end for Toronto, just because he can exit the zone. He's a more offensively minded guy. Florida, they're not the most structured of teams. They like to play that high pace hockey, and it works for them. That's their identity. It works well for Florida. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Maple Leafs, who have the guns to play that game, try it, because if they don't, I'll tell you what, the smartest thing Toronto can do is be flexible on defense and rotate guys in and out, because that Florida forecheck will put a beating and take a toll on Toronto's defense as the series wears on.
We're speaking to Steven Psihogios of North Star Best. Stevie, the Kraken, another big upset, this time in the West over the Colorado Avalanche. They get the Dallas Stars in the second round. Are you a believer in this team? Do you think they can get past this really, really good Stars team?
I don't think so. I think the one thing about Dallas is they're very malleable. I said earlier on the show, bettors need to be like water. Dallas, they can be like water in when the playoffs start. They've got the offensive guys. Even without Joe Pavelski, that offense still looks strong. Tyler Seguin really stepped up in a big way. And they can play the defensive game too. They've got a really strong defense core led by Miro Heiskanen. You go through 1 through 6 on that defense, you're not going to find too many units better in the Western Conference. And then you got Jake Ottinger and net. If they want to play a low-scoring game, the Kraken, in a very structured style, I think Dallas is more than capable of matching them. That's going to be a fun series. lot of unders. I'm guessing they're going to be a lot of low scoring games.
Yeah, the Kraken can play that shutdown game, Tonight, another game 7. It's the Devils against the Rangers. I mean, after the first 2 games, I did not think it was going to get here. I thought the Rangers was going to take care of business. I thought maybe the Devils were too young, too inexperienced, but that's definitely not the case. I mean, you look at the odds, it's essentially a pick 'em with the Rangers a slight dog here. Who do you like tonight?
I'm going with the Rangers. They were my pick before the series started. I said Rangers in 7, and I'm going to stick by it now that we're in game 7. And it also helps that they've got Igor Shesterkin on their side.
Right.
Akira Schmid, he's been phenomenal for the New Jersey Devils. Fantastic. .937 save percentage. Only to be outdone, however, by Igor Shesterkin, sporting a .939 save percentage, the best of all the first-round netminders. And Igor's been money in these game 7s. The Rangers went to 2 last year. They won them both. He had a .938 save percentage in those 2 games. So you've got a lot working against New Jersey. I think that's a team that they haven't gotten the depth scoring that they would have liked. Look at a guy like Timo Meier. This was the big fish at the trade deadline. 0 points this entire series. Not even skating on the first power play unit right now. I just don't think that New Jersey has the guys when you go further down the lineup to win this game tonight.
Stevie, not to rub it in, but if you're wrong there, how is the bracket looking so far for you?
Okay, so the bracket, Boston busted mine for sure. We had the Leafs. I'm a Leaf hater, but I did pick them to win in round 1. I'm trying to think. Colorado busted. This has been a wild year. I'm trying to think what else I got wrong. There's one other one. The Islanders. I had the Islanders beating Carolina.
Why is it, do you think, Stevie? I mean, is it just parity in the league right now?
I think so, and I think we're learning that take the regular season with a grain of salt, because the playoffs are a complete different beast, and you're seeing a lot of teams just get. I don't even know what to say, because no one's going to say that the Avalanche, the moment was too big for Colorado. Like, they were just the Cup champions, but you have to look at what teams are doing recently. The Avalanche missing some key forwards up front. They just didn't have that offensive punch. They were only able to muster 1 goal in a game 7. So I think just being mindful of how teams are trending into the playoffs is very important. And also just there's so many adjustments made by either side in a 7-game series that, you get the matchup you like, and next thing you know, the other team's top players are just held at bay. So there's just a lot that can happen in the playoffs.
What's terrifying for me and probably mostly fans is that the Leafs are plus 360 at North Star Bets to win the Stanley Cup. Outright favorites behind them. The Oilers plus 380. How about that? Imagine an Oilers-Leafs final. That would be an incredible series.
Gary would love that, wouldn't he?
He would.
Ratings bonanza.
About a minute left, Stevie. Do you have any more best bets for us tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Meier to not score a point. That was plus 117 over at North Star Bets. It hasn't happened all series. I'm going to bet on it not happening again tonight. I also like something a little bit longer odds. Chris Kreider to score a goal, plus 175. He scored in both their game 7s last year. He's been a goal scoring machine during this series with 6. And I just think he gets on the board tonight. And like I said, I like the under, and I also like the Rangers to win.
Yeah, Kreider's been great. 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. He's having a great playoff series. I think second all time, maybe first all time in terms of playoff points for the Rangers, which is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Steven Zahoyes, thank you so much for doing this. We appreciate you coming in on short notice. Take care of that leg and just relax, and don't worry about the Bruins. They'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back in 10 years once we fill Bergeron's void.
All right, Stevie, thank you so much.